Hello guys, and today's kind of a very touchy subject, and frankly this video is going to be a bit more graphic. What I mean is I'm going to be talking about some really disturbing things, so if you want to hop off now, I completely understand. Do your own research, it's very brutal. And of course today we're going to be talking about the infamous Nan King Massacre, one of the worst war crimes committed by the Japanese army in World War II, and one of the worst war crimes committed by any military force in World War II and in the world. Now, of course, I would consider the Nan King Massacre to be up there. I wouldn't consider the Nan King Massacre to be up there in the Holocaust in terms of deaths, but I definitely would put it up in the top 10 of worst war crimes committed by the Axis. So, the Nan King Massacre started on December 13th, 1937, and went to around January 1938. A bit over 6 weeks, but those 6 weeks were hell. Let's just put it at that. Sorry if you hear dogs barking. But basically, Nanking was the capital of China. Now, of course, now that isn't, it's Beijing. But this was, the 30s. China was undergoing a civil war. It was kind of a mess, and that's why Japan chose to invade China in the first place. It was approximately 42 days, but those 42 days were hell. 42 days and 41 nights. The Japanese had just taken Shanghai. Shanghai took about 3 months to capture, and the Japanese were very angry about that because, they seemed as an embarrassment. Also, before we kind of go fully in, I do want to say that people in Japan actually don't know much about World War II or kind of their country's horrible atrocities. So I just kind of put that out. I think a lot of people know that, but a lot of people think Japan's the victim of World War II because they got nuked and stuff. But there's some really good videos out there that kind of explain that. So specifically Knowing Better, the channel Knowing Better. I'll leave a link in the description below because a lot of my information, not a lot, but some of my information I got from his videos. So I just want to say it's a great channel. You should go subscribe and like his videos. They're very good. So basically, Shanghai took about 3 months to capture, which was very embarrassing for the Japanese, because the Japanese did not expect the Chinese defenders to put up this much of resistance, so they took it out on the civilians at Nanking, which, as you know, is very important because, it was the capital of China, and there were around 300,000 troops there, and the Japanese were completely outnumbered, but still they won. They captured the city and were brutal. Now, the Japanese were always very brutal because, they were surrendering. They were cowards, and they believed the Chinese were inferior to them. So, let's talk about the Nanking Safety Zone, which was set up by the outside community, the international community, to kind of make like a buffer zone, so the Japanese couldn't mess with that, couldn't, go out and, kill people in the safety zone. So the safety zone was occupied by, Nazi Germany and Italy, and it was occupied by some other countries. I don't know about Italy though. Don't actually take my word. I know, but it basically was kind of like an international buffer between Japan's cruelty. So the Nazis there, they were friends with Japan, and frankly, Nazi Germany was about to do the same thing that Japan was doing in Europe. So, you may think they supported them, but they actually didn't. Some Nazi ambassadors to Nanking, ambassadors, would go outside and, see people getting killed, and they would actually try to stop it, or just tell Japanese to go away, and see women getting raped in public, which was very common, and just stop it. Some even Nazi ambassadors got a statue today in the capital of China to kind of, even though they were Nazis, and frankly, with SS uniforms, they still did save a lot of people. But others were not so fortunate. It's kind of hard to estimate the number of deaths because people have been invading. Some say that old Chinese were killed in the city, like old soldiers. Personally, what I found, most common people say 200,000 to 300,000 people were killed, and about 20 to 80,000 women were raped. Now, you may be wondering, why is there a huge gap between 20,000 and 80,000? Because after they were raped by like 20 soldiers, sometimes they would actually be killed in terrible ways. I'm gonna tell you some ways they use to kill people. So please, if you're not eating and if you want to hop off now, I can understand. So what the Japanese would do is, I've actually read some really interesting diaries from Chinese civilians who survived it and who watched it. I watched TV documentaries, and one of the first things that came to my mind was, when I think of this, is basically the Chinese would have to bury their own graves. So the Japanese, so basically they would dig like a line, it was like a line dirt that was probably, 6 feet tall or something, and then the Japanese the Chinese row of prisoners behind them would push those people in their grave, and it was kind of like a line. They would just keep digging, pushing. They had to bury themselves alive, which is very cruel. And there are actually 2 Japanese lieutenants in the Nan King Massacre who made a bet that he could get more kills with a samurai sword, or chop off more heads, I guess I should say, than his other soldier. And the original target was 100 people's heads cut off, but they actually exceeded that, going to 150. And this was actually widely, reported in Japan. And you know how we look at football games? That was kind of what it was like. It was front news, which is terrible. These 2 lieutenants were later executed for war crimes. Some reports also say that Chinese civilians would have to drink fuel and then be shot, so they would burn when they were killed. Others say they were bayoneted, burned alive, shot, hanged, very other gruesome ways. Babies were bayoneted. Even babies were killed, guys. The Japanese had no mercy. They really didn't care. Houses were burned with people inside. They would starve them. The Japanese would starve them from water and food. And it was really just, the whole world heard about it. And Japanese, they tried to cover it up, and of course they didn't do the best job of doing it. The whole world heard about it, and it really changed the Western's opinion, especially America. Of course, America really didn't take any significant action, I guess you could say, though. But yeah, so about 300,000 people were killed. It's different estimates, and 20 to 80,000 women were raped. And those 6 weeks were hell. It was, the Japanese basically left. They destroyed everything, killed a lot of people, left, knives in people. Sometimes, they just burned down buildings with people inside, like I said. They just destroyed the capital and killed, basically 400,000 people, estimates. So I know I told you guys this video was going to be different, and if you heard this, I'm sorry. It's just history, and hopefully we can never let it happen again. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.